Great. Thank you very much, RT, for the very nice introduction. And again, my name is Christine, and I'm a senior data architect at the University of Utah, presenting today on my application called Research Grant Toolbelt. And what this is a tool that leverages various classic AI patterns in order to address some of the challenges we face with producing grant application materials. So I'll talk a little bit now about our target audience, and that's going to be mostly people within our organization. Our organization provides various services to really a wide array of research groups, one of which is helping with developing grant application materials. We have a wide-ranging impact. We've provided support to over 160 studies since our founding over 30 years ago. We've got 75 plus projects in the pipeline, and we work with 500 plus collaborate researchers. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the first phase of this project because it's really a multi-phase project. And the first part of this was to look specifically at developing budgets. One of the challenges that our organization has today is developing feasible budgets for our research studies such that they cover the cost to administer the research while remaining competitive against other organizations. This chart that I have represented here kind of shows the number of applications that are being submitted to NIH, one of our main funding organizations, versus how many of those are actually awarded. And so success rates for funding applications are only at about 30%. So it's a pretty competitive process. To add to that, the developing a budget process is pretty complex. And I'm going to go into the details of that right now. So it involves all of these different details that you can find on NIH's website. And it goes on and on and on and on. So it's pretty exhaustive process and takes quite a bit of time and is incredibly imperfect. So with this solution, we're hoping to speed up some of that time by developing an agentic solution. And what we're going to build out here is a number of different agents that are going to first assess the study complexity using the funding announcements, and then from there build out the budgets for us. The output is going to look something like this document here, and this is going to include the funding opportunity overview that comes from the announcement itself, in addition to several tables with the calculated efforts, some justifications, and some additional costs. Continuing on, I'm going to talk a little bit about how I developed this prototype, and it all, of course, starts with loading the data. And so I'm going to get into that in just a second, but the next part of this was to develop a handful of tools, build out the agents, give the agents, of course, access to those tools, assign a supervisor, and then test. So the data sources consisted of various different things. I was able to find NIH funding opportunities from NIH's website, along with several other project sources. In the future, I hope to add historical budget documents and historical effort allocation and scope documents to additionally fine-tune these materials. The tools that I built out include your traditional RAG tools, summarization, calculation, and document management. There are, as I mentioned before, quite a few agents that are developing the different components of the budget for our application materials. And then last but not least is our supervisor, which of course is supervising and determining which agent to use for the application. So what does that mean to us? That means one of these big blue things. So on the back end, this is what the application actually looks like. And you can see I've provided several additional agents here that are doing some summarization and search, but really the key focus of this first phase of the project was to build out the budget. So now I'm going to go ahead and jump into the demo. and we'll have a look at it here. So this has jumped over to my application, which I just have running in Chainlit, and we're going to plug in, create a budget for funding opportunity PR25-83. So that is the funding opportunity ID, and you can see it's handing it off to the budget generator agent. I'll scroll in here so you can see this. And then this takes a minute just to run behind the scenes. So the first part of this process is it's developing or it's assessing the study complexity. So now it's going through here, and I've actually set up caching so it can work through the material a little bit faster. And it's just going to continue to iterate on this and build out this document for us. And what it results in is, again, what we saw before, a PDF document. So it's just going to continue to work through that. So let's talk for a minute about what future phases of this project look like while we wait for that application to complete its running. I'm expecting for a phase 2 of this project to be some additional fine-tuning of what I've done here, in addition to adding historical budgets, effort allocation, and scope documents. Following that phase, I expect to get things ready for production. And so adding in historical budgets, effort allocation, and scope documents would mean adding in proprietary data and having to protect that data from external exposure. For this prototype, I've used OpenAI models, and so my expectation would be that I would need to swap out those models for on-prem ones and host it internally. In addition to that, I need to do some additional fine-tuning of my embedding model and then some RAG evaluation. And then for phase 4 and beyond, I really expect to grow the application and add some additional features to it. So really explore the summarization components and other parts of the research application process. So I think the only thing that remains at this point is just leaving time for some questions. We can hop over here and just see that this is still running through the materials and producing a budget for us. So we can return to this at the end, or we can go back to our materials and see what that looks like. But I'll open it up now for questions.